I think one of the best ways to talk about change and transformation is to talk about the universality of it. And so to that point, how many Christians does it take to change a light bulb? One, but really three, but really one, but really three. How many Roman Catholics does it take to change a light bulb? None. We use candles. How many Episcopalians does it take to change a light bulb? 12. 1 to call the electrician, and 11 to say how much we like the old light bulb better. How many Lutherans does it take to change a light bulb? 3. 1 to change it, 1 to justify it, and 1 to nail notice of the change to the church door. How many Methodists does it take to change a light bulb? 22. 1 to hold the ladder, 1 to climb the ladder, 10 to form a committee to determine the efficacy of the old light bulb, and 10 to form a committee for the potluck to welcome the new light bulb. How many Amish does it take to change a light bulb? What's a light bulb? How many fundamentalists does it take to change a light bulb? There is nothing in the Bible about light bulbs. And how many Unitarian Universalists does it take to change a light bulb? We choose not to make a statement either in favor of or against the need for a light bulb. If you have found that a light bulb works for you, we support that. You are invited to write a poem or compose a modern dance to be included in next month's annual Light Bulb Sunday service, in which we will explore a number of lighting traditions, including compact fluorescent, incandescent, three-way, and long life, all of which are valid paths to luminescence. I figure I can get away with telling that joke twice to a similar group of people, and that's 2 times. I've got to go. Octavia Butler, in her great work of Afrofuturism fiction, The Parable of the Sower, wrote this: "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." I believe by God here she means ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is change. Everything changes. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes change is bad. I read something this last year that said it's not that people don't like change. If you win the lottery, it might change your life a lot for the better. It's not that we don't like change. We don't like loss. We don't like to lose things. We don't like grief that comes with change. So today I want to talk at the beginning of our theme for this month, the gifts of transformation, about strength and struggle, or sometimes struggle and strength. How change, either the change that we want or the change that we don't want, involuntary change, can lead to tremendous struggle and also to great strength or renewed strength or some new opening we had no idea about before. I see you nodding your heads a bit. You know this. This is basically a reminder, I think. But it's also an opportunity to talk a little bit about the anxiety that may be present in the congregation. For those of you who are visiting and may not know this, I've announced that I will be leaving my current 2 ministries at the end of June. So I will be the minister here through the end of June. And so we're talking about what will that transition and transformation of this congregation look like? So just so you have a little context, that we all have that. Shunryu Suzuki was a Zen Buddhist monk, a Japanese man who was famous for having popularized Zen Buddhism in the United States, and he created the first Zen Buddhist monastery outside of Asia. So Shunryu Suzuki, he was teaching one day, and a student raised their hand and said, "Suzuki Roshi, I've been listening to your lectures for years, but I just don't understand. Could you please put it in a nutshell? Could you reduce Buddhism to one phrase?" And everyone laughed, and Suzuki laughed and said, "Everything changes." Next question. In religious communities, in spiritual communities, in groups of seekers the world over, this idea of change as a spiritual transformation, as a spiritual experience, whether spiritual is the word for you or not, I'm inviting you to go along with this. A change from within is something that is a hallmark of the religious metaphors from across time and place. Grace, liberation, being born again, awakening from illusion, all testify that it's possible to transcend the conditioning of our past and to do a new thing. So this is not new to us, and I think, how do we come together to talk about ways to navigate change in bringing our anxiety along with us, but not letting anxiety be the driver? Change happens for all of us. It's said that change is, that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Change is inevitable. Anxiety may be optional for us as we navigate our way through change. I think when we talk about what's happening in our world, there is so much anxiety, and we see so much change happening on a global level. You see it in your individual lives as parents fail, they are more fragile than they were. You see change happening in your families with a new family member coming in, with health diagnosis and return to health. There are all kinds of ways that we navigate change all the time. I mean, just when you feel like you've kind of got all the moles whacked down and there's a moment of quiet, sure enough, another mole pops up to play whack-a-mole. And change is what we have to do. I think there's a quality of centeredness that allows me to be in balance so that I can whack a mole, right? Rather than all over the place. So both in our personal lives and in our civic life, as you said, our national life, the change in the climate, the change in our democracy, the change in our ability to speak to people, the change, the transformation into a society that we don't particularly like, that we're able to see the scars and damage from. All those transformations come. Some transformations we choose, and some we do not. How do our faith commitments to this, what I say is life-saving faith of worth and dignity, of honoring each other, of recognizing the interdependence of all of life, of holding up democracy as an ideal, These values that we care about, how do they help us navigate the uncertainty? I'm interested to hear, as we come to our dialogue part of the program, how it helps you navigate. Many changes are voluntary. We decide that we're going to do something different with our lives. We decide that it's time to take the next step into that relationship, that we're going to write that book that we've been thinking about for a long time, that we're going to put our voice out into the world and make it change, that we're going to we're going to run for the city council, the town council, and see what difference we can make. Some changes are voluntary. We get up the gumption and we make a transformation. And many are involuntary. Nobody says, well, what I want to do today, well, this could be Bruce, but most people don't say, what I really want to do today is change all the light bulbs. See where I went with that? Sorry, I could have given you a little bit of setup there, Bruce, right? We're going to change all the light bulbs. No, we change the light bulb when it needs to be changed, right? Something happens and then we have to respond to it. In the travel industry, the word is called involuntary change. That's the contractual language when an airline or a train or a cruise or a bus company changes your reservation without your wanting to. They put you a day later, or they say that your flight is canceled, or whatever it is. That's an involuntary change. Your minister deciding that they're no longer going to stick around in this love fest that we have, what am I, nuts? Is an involuntary change for you. It's a voluntary change for me, but it's an involuntary change for you. And so how we navigate that, how you decide to navigate that, is part of the character of this place and the character of your relationships and the strength that you have built here that I've been privileged to be a part of. Ministers leave congregations all the time. They come and they go. A congregation, this fellowship, people come and go, but you are the ones who create these beautiful bonds, these networks, who hold each other's stories and will be here. You were here through at least 2 previous ministers who have been with you, and you will be together after I depart and another minister comes, depending on what you decide. In Unitarian Universalism, we practice congregational polity. That means that you decide that the Unitarian Universalist Association is not sending somebody to you. They're not assigning someone to you, and they haven't told me that I have to go. We have congregational polity, and ministers have freedom to come and go. So that doesn't mean that you're on your own. The Unitarian Universalist Association has lots of support to give you. I want to just lay out for you what I suggest and what I've shared with your steering committee, your mighty, loving steering committee, about what might be some of the next steps. Betsy and I had a conversation yesterday. Betsy is the current moderator of the steering committee. Do we say moderator or chair? Grand Poobah. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit, and so lots of emails have gone on among this team that is dedicated and present. So some of the things that I might suggest, and it's up to you to continue it on, are that the steering committee have a retreat. Actually, I think that was Betsy's suggestion, that the steering committee have a retreat, a meeting outside of its regular business meeting. There's business to do, but we've got some specific things to talk about. And at that special meeting, talk about a process for selecting a transition team. One to hold the ladder, one to climb the ladder, a process for selecting the transition team. How will we do that? Will we invite everybody in the fellowship to help decide what we want to do about a next minister? Well, that's one way. Seems it might be a little clunky and hard to find consensus in that way. But a process. And then what they want the team to do. What's the charge to the team? Are they meant to look at mission? Are they meant to look at budget? Are they meant to look at timeline? Or what are the various things that a transition team would look at? How will they gather input from the congregation? So a charge to the team, so everybody knows what their goal is. And once a transition team is gathered, whether that includes members of the steering committee, members of various other committees, Sunday services, membership, building and finance, various groups that we might have, Main Street Voices or the social action team, who might be on that, members at large, we don't know yet, how they would investigate some things about SCOOF. Do they want to talk about mission? Do a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a great way to surface up some ideas. And we did that when I first came here, I think. We created a SWOT analysis of SCOOF, and that was useful information for us to have. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Inviting people to share what they love about this congregation. Lynn said so beautifully, I love this place. I love to be here. And what we want. What might you dream for your next iteration? What might you dream about? What resources you have? What's the financial lift that you have? Do you want to lift more? Do you want to do less? What works and what doesn't work? How to use the resources of the Unitarian Universalist Association and the Transitions Office. We've already been in contact with the Transitions Office to let them know that I'm leaving and that you will be in search for another minister. And you can use as much or little of their process as you want. If you were looking for a full-time, settled minister, it would be a big, long process. That's what I'm in the midst of right now with other congregations. But because you are likely to be looking for a part-time minister, a contract position, you don't have to go through the long thing. You can do it a little bit more like we did it. I didn't go through a search process with you. We got hooked up because we knew people who knew each other, and somebody said, hey, Kelly, you want to do this? And then I dated you for a long time, right? Till we figured out how to make it work together. And then once a transition team has ascertained the information that they want, what mission are we putting out? How are we putting ourselves forward? What kind of minister do we want? What might be available to us? Bringing that back to the steering committee and the fellowship at large. I believe that when there is the most transparency and people trust the process, they will trust the outcome. Even if you don't agree with every single thing, and believe me, there are some of you who don't agree with me on every single thing, which is good, right? Even if you don't agree on every single thing, when you trust the process, we trust the outcome. And so I think that's the work of the steering committee, is to begin working in that process and being very clear and having those conversations. A part of the job of transition is, for me, is quieting the need to know. increasing my ability to live with uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know I love these people, and I know we're going to be okay, and I'm going to keep showing up with you. That's a thing that you can know that can help quiet the uncertainty. Who's it going to be? Oh my God, Kelly's leaving. Who's it going to be? One or two of you have said that I was the thing that held this congregation together. I completely disagree with that. You are the thing that holds the fellowship together. It's my privilege to stand up here once a month and show up with you in meetings and share a little of what I know of best practices. But far and away, the strength of this congregation is the way that you all show up. I'll tell that story to anybody who will listen. And in fact, you have made me a better minister so that I am prepared to go and minister to other congregations. Those are some of the steps for change, and I'll share those in writing with the with the steering committee. The senior minister at First Unitarian Society, my boss, the Reverend Dr. David Breeden, says this: each moment, each of us steps across the threshold of becoming. Some struggle to remain the same. Others embrace the art of evolving, becoming alchemists, transforming thought into action, belief into practice, recognizing the ceaseless flow, the perpetual nature of potential inherent in transformation. Formation, we know it. Formed, shaped, rigid. Trans, we know it. Transcend, transverse, transmute. Go beyond. Those words help me be clear about I can rest in the ideas of transformation that I have seen. You have in your own lives transformations that have happened, ways that you have grown. As human beings, we do not stay static. We change. We move. We transform. Our bodies transform, sometimes creakier than others. Our relationships transform. Sometimes relationships are hard and broken and difficult, and sometimes they can be healed, and sometimes we can make peace with the broken places. Formation, formed, shaped, rigid. Transcend, transverse, transmute, go beyond. One of my favorite ideas about transformation is about how a butterfly emerges from a chrysalis. And I've heard this in multiple settings, but my favorite comes from a domestic violence, intimate partner violence shelter in Montana called the Abbey. Here's what they write. At the Abbey, our favorite summertime metaphor is the butterfly. Beyond the symbol of metamorphosis followed by flight, we connect strongly with the struggle for freedom. The final exit from the butterfly's cocoon is also the most grueling part of her transformation. In order to escape her cocoon, she must struggle to free her body with its brand new wings from its safe place of sleep. The struggle at times is so intense that the butterfly may seem near death, but it is critical at this point that no one comes to rescue her. She needs to do it by herself. You see, the struggle to open her cocoon is what builds the strength of her wings. Without the struggle, the emerging new butterfly lacks the strength to fly and embark on her new journey in the world. Without this self-sustaining strength, she will perish quickly. Again, she needs to do this all by herself. Those who have watched a butterfly emerge from chrysalis often describe the process of witnessing this as painful. All of the waiting and watching without intervening tests even the most patient butterfly enthusiasts. And of course, they are connecting this to people who are moving out of unsafe spaces. They have a shelter, but there's a lot of internal work that's got to be done, right? To finally open those wings and fly. And the only way to get to that is to navigate that struggle. I think it would be detrimental to the congregation to say, listen, Kelly's leaving, we're just going to take the first minister, that's pretty good, somebody who could come and be with us for part-time, we're just going to take the first available one. We're going to trust that that will work. I think the strength of emerging from this safe, lovely relationship that we have, emerging and feeling the strength of those wings, asking the deep questions of who you are collectively, is transformative. It's hard. It's not all that much fun, although it can be. But it's so necessary. And I have not one doubt in my mind about the strength and the potential in this congregation to emerge into your next iteration. Parker Palmer and Carrie Newcomer were in a podcast. Parker Palmer is a Quaker leader and writer, and Carrie Newcomer is a writer and Christian theologian, progressive Christian theologian. And they said this in a recent podcast. So we'll ask you the same question we ask ourselves. What's the growing edge of your life? Some find it inwardly as they reach a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Some find it with other people at an edge where a relationship needs to begin to change or end. Some find it in their work as they look for ways to bring their gifts into deeper alignment with their soul's imperatives and the world's needs. Others find their growing edge in joining the struggle for justice in a broken world. I think the question of what's the growing edge for the St. Croix Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is a worthy and generative question that will lead you forward into and through and emerging into transformation. May it be so, and amen.